The last coins. The fluorescent lights of the grocery store buzzed overhead as Maya counted the coins in her trembling palm for the third time. 47 cents. That was it. Everything she had left until Friday, still 3 days away. She looked down at the can of baby formula in her other hand, then at the price tag. $24.99. Her stomach twisted. Little Emma was only 4 months old, and the last of her formula was gone. Maya had already watered down yesterday's bottle more than she should have, watching her daughter's confused, hungry eyes search her face for answers she couldn't give. The store was nearly empty at this hour, 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Maya had waited until late, hoping somehow the universe would provide an answer. Maybe she'd find dropped money in the parking lot. Maybe a miracle. But standing here now, reality pressed down on her shoulders like a physical weight. She was 23 years old, a single mother working 2 part-time jobs that barely covered rent and utilities. Emma's father had disappeared the moment he learned about the pregnancy. Her own parents had passed away in a car accident when she was 19. She had no one, just herself and her baby girl, waiting at home with the elderly neighbor who watched her for free in exchange for Maya. Running errands. Maya felt the hot sting of tears behind her eyes, but refused to let them fall. Not here, not in public. "Excuse me, miss. Are you in line?" Maya turned to see a man in his 60s standing behind her. He wore an expensive-looking coat and carried only a basket with a few items. His salt and pepper hair was neatly combed, and despite the late hour, he looked put together in a way that spoke of success and stability. Everything Maya wasn't. "I'm sorry," she whispered, stepping aside. I can't." She couldn't finish the sentence. Admitting she couldn't afford baby formula felt like admitting she'd failed as a mother. She clutched the can tighter, as if holding it could somehow make it hers. The man's eyes flickered from her face to the formula, then to the coins still clutched in her other hand. Something shifted in his expression, but Maya was too lost in her own despair to notice. She turned away, planning to put the formula back and leave before she broke down completely. Maybe she could ask her boss for an advance. Maybe she could... Wait. The man's voice was gentle but firm. Maya stopped, her back still to him. "How much do you need?" The question hung in the air between them. Maya's pride warred with her desperation. She'd never asked for charity, never wanted to be the object of anyone's pity. But Emma's hungry cries echoed in her memory. She slowly turned around. I can't ask you to..." "You're not asking. I'm offering." He pulled out his wallet. "How much?" Maya's voice came out barely above a whisper. $24.52. Without hesitation, he pulled out 2 20s and handed them to her. "Take it, please." Maya stared at the bills, her vision blurring with tears she could no longer hold back. "I don't know when I can pay you back. I don't want you to pay me back." His voice was kind, his eyes understanding in a way that made her feel seen rather than pitiful. "I just want your baby to eat tonight." The tears spilled over. "Thank you," she managed. "Thank you so much." She practically ran to the register, paid for the formula, and clutched the bag like it was made of gold. When she turned back to thank the man again, he was already at the register with his own items, giving her a small nod and a warm smile. Maya rushed home, fed Emma, and held her daughter close as the baby drank contentedly, her tiny hand resting on Maya's chest. In that moment, a stranger's kindness had saved them. 3 months passed. Maya's situation had improved slightly. She'd gotten more hours at the diner, and Emma was sleeping better, which meant Maya could think more clearly and manage money more carefully. They were still struggling, but they were surviving. She often thought about the man in the grocery store, wondering if he knew how much that moment had meant. She'd prayed for him every night since, hoping the universe would return his kindness tenfold. On a Friday afternoon, Maya was serving the lunch rush at Bailey's diner when her manager, Tom, called her into his office. Her heart sank. In her experience, nothing good came from being called into the office. "Maya, sit down," Tom said, his expression unreadable. She sat, her mind racing through every possible mistake she might have made. "I got an unusual call this morning," Tom continued. "From Robert Chen." Maya blinked. "Who?" Robert Chen. He's the CEO of Chen Industries. You know, the tech company that just opened that big campus outside town. Maya shook her head, confused. I don't understand. Why would a CEO be calling about me? Tom leaned back in his chair, looking as baffled as she felt. Apparently he met you a few months ago at a grocery store. He said he helped you buy baby formula. The room seemed to tilt. The man in the expensive coat. That was Robert Chen, a CEO. He's been trying to track you down ever since, Tom continued. He only knew your first name and that you worked somewhere in this area. He finally found you through the diner's employee roster. He had someone call around to every restaurant and shop in a 10-mile radius. Maya's hands started shaking. Why? Why would he do that? Tom slid a business card across the desk. He wants to meet with you. He left his private number. That evening, after her shift, Maya sat in her tiny apartment with the business card in her hand. Emma was playing on a blanket on the floor, gurgling happily at her toes. Maya stared at the phone number until the digits blurred together. Finally, she dialed. He answered on the second ring. Robert Chen. Mr. Chen, this is Maya Rodriguez, from the grocery store. There was a pause. Then his voice warmed with recognition. Maya, thank you for calling. I've been hoping to hear from you. I don't understand, she said honestly. Why were you looking for me? Can we meet? He asked. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you that night, but I didn't know how. They met at a quiet coffee shop the next morning. Maya had asked her neighbor to watch Emma, her nerves making her feel sick. What could a CEO possibly want with her? Robert Chen was already there when she arrived. Sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee, he stood when he saw her, and she was struck again by how kind his eyes were. Thank you for coming, he said as they sat down. I know this must seem strange. It does, Maya admitted. I've been wondering what I did wrong. Wrong? He looked surprised. You didn't do anything wrong. That's not why I wanted to see you. He took a breath, his hands wrapping around his coffee cup. That night at the grocery store, I was having the worst day of my life. My wife had passed away exactly 1 year before, same day, same time. I'd spent the evening at her grave, and I was in a dark place, questioning everything. Maya's heart ached for him. I'm so sorry. He nodded, accepting her sympathy. I'd gone to that store because I couldn't stand being alone in our empty house. I wasn't even sure what I was buying. And then I saw you. He leaned forward, his expression intense. Maya, you were standing there counting coins, and I could see the desperation on your face. But do you know what else I saw? I saw determination. I saw love. I saw a young mother who would have sold her soul to feed her baby, who was holding herself together with nothing but willpower and hope. Maya felt her throat tighten. In that moment, Robert continued, you reminded me of someone. My wife, Sarah. We'd started with nothing, literally nothing. When our daughter was born, we were so broke that Sarah once tried to return her own birthday gift to buy diapers. I was working 3 jobs and going to school at night. We didn't think we'd make it. What happened? Maya asked softly. We fought, we worked. We built something together. His eyes glistened. And then, 30 years later, when we had more money than we could ever spend, she got sick. All that money, all that success couldn't save her. And I realized I'd spent so many years building an empire that I'd forgotten what really mattered. The kindness we'd received when we had nothing, the people who'd helped us, the humanity that had carried us through. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. After I helped you that night, I went home and couldn't stop thinking about you. About your baby. About the fact that in a country this wealthy, mothers are counting change to buy formula. And I thought about what Sarah would have done. He slid the envelope across the table. That's why I need to ask you, why didn't you tell me? Maya stared at the envelope, confused. Tell you what? That you needed more than baby formula. His voice was gentle but firm. That you were struggling with everything. That you needed real help, not just $40. I couldn't, Maya whispered. You were already being so kind. I couldn't ask for more. That's exactly what Sarah would have said. Robert smiled sadly. She never asked for help either, even when we were drowning. But someone helped us anyway. A mentor who gave me my first real job. A landlord who reduced our rent when she saw we were trying. A neighbor who brought over groceries and pretended Sarah had won them in a contest, so she wouldn't refuse. He tapped the envelope. Open it. With trembling hands, Maya opened the envelope. Inside was a letter on official company letterhead. She read it once, then again, certain she'd misunderstood. I can't. It's a job offer, Robert said. Full-time position at Chen Industries. Entry level, but with full benefits, including childcare at our on-site facility. The salary is $52,000 to start, with raises based on performance. And before you say you're not qualified, the position is in our customer service department. You're a waitress. You know how to deal with people, solve problems, and work under pressure. That's exactly what we need. Maya couldn't speak. She couldn't breathe. There's more, Robert continued. Chen Industries has a housing assistance program for employees. We'll help with your rent for the first year while you get on your feet. And we offer tuition reimbursement if you want to go back to school. The tears came then, unstoppable. Why? Why would you do this for me? Robert reached across the table and gently touched her hand. Because 30 years ago someone did it for us. And because that night in the grocery store, when I was lost in grief and questioning everything, you reminded me why Sarah and I built this company in the first place. Not to accumulate wealth, but to create opportunities, to be the kind of people who help, the way we were helped. He pulled his hand back, his own eyes bright. And if I'm being completely honest, because I have a daughter your age, and I'd want someone to help her if she were in your position. But also because I looked at you that night and saw someone worth helping, someone who would use this opportunity, not just to survive, but to thrive. Maya wiped her eyes, trying to pull herself together. I don't know what to say. Say you'll take the job. Say you'll let me do what Sarah would have done if she was still here. Say you'll pay it forward someday, when you're the one with the resources to help someone else. Maya looked at this man who'd been a stranger 3 months ago, who'd tracked her down not for anything she could give him, but for what he could give her. She thought about Emma, about the future that had seemed so impossibly bleak, about the door that was suddenly opening in front of them. I'll take it, she said. And I promise I'll pay it forward. Robert smiled, and for the first time since his wife had died, he felt like she was there with him, approving. That's all I ask. 5 years later, Maya Rodriguez stood in front of a room full of new Chen Industries employees, giving the orientation speech she now gave 4 times a year. Some of you might be wondering why a tech company has such generous benefits, why we invest so much in our employees, why we have programs for single parents and housing, assistance and tuition reimbursement, she said, looking out at the eager faces. She was now a department manager, had finished her business degree, and owned a small house where she and Emma, now a bright, healthy 5-year-old, had a garden and a dog. It's because this company was built by people who knew what it meant to struggle, and it's run by people who believe that business should be about more than profit. It should be about people. After the meeting, a young woman approached her hesitantly. Ms. Rodriguez, can I talk to you for a minute? Of course. The woman's eyes filled with tears. I almost didn't come to this interview. I'm a single mom, and childcare costs are so high, and I didn't think I could afford to take a full-time job, even if I got it. But then I saw the benefits package, and Is it real? Is it really this good? Maya smiled, seeing herself from 5 years ago in this woman's hopeful, desperate face. It's real. I know because I was where you are. Someone helped me when I had nothing, and now I get to help people like you. The woman started crying in earnest. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me, Maya said gently. Thank a man named Robert Chen, and then someday help someone else. That evening, Maya stopped by Robert's office before heading home. He was getting ready to leave, sorting through papers on his desk. At 71, he was talking about retirement, about spending more time with his grandchildren, but everyone knew he'd never really stop working. It wasn't in his nature. Good orientation today, he asked. The best kind, Maya replied. We hired a single mother who reminds me of someone I used to know. Robert smiled knowingly. Funny how that works. Robert, Maya said, using his first name as he'd insisted she do years ago. I've been thinking about that night in the grocery store. Oh? You asked me why I didn't tell you I needed more than just baby formula. But I have a question for you now. Why didn't you tell me who you were? Why didn't you tell me you were a CEO? Who could have written a check for $10,000 without blinking? Robert was quiet for a moment, gazing out his office window at the campus he'd built. Because that night I wasn't a CEO. I was just a man who'd lost his wife, who was trying to remember how to be human again. And you weren't a charity case. You were a mother trying to feed her baby. If I'd told you who I was, it would have changed everything. You would have felt obligated or pitiful or impressed. But what we had in that moment was just humanity. One person helping another. He turned back to her. And besides, I didn't know then what I was going to do. I just knew I needed to find you again, to do more. To honor Sarah's memory by being the kind of person she believed I could be. Maya crossed the room and hugged him, something she'd done many times over the years. But it never stopped feeling like hugging the father she'd lost. Thank you for finding me, for everything. Thank you for letting me help, Robert said. You've become like another daughter to me, you know. Sarah would have loved you. I wish I could have met her. You remind me of her every day. That's the next best thing. As Maya drove home that evening, Emma chattering excitedly in the back seat about her day at kindergarten, she thought about the chain of events that had brought her here. A dark moment in a grocery store, a stranger's kindness, a CEO's grief transforming into purpose, a life changed by the simple act of seeing another person's humanity. She thought about the young woman she'd hired today, about the life that was about to transform for her and her child, and she thought about all the people yet to come whose lives would be touched by this ripple of kindness that had started with $40 and a can of baby formula. That night, as she tucked Emma into bed, her daughter asked her the question she asked every night. Mama, tell me about Mr. Robert. And Maya told her, as she always did, about the night a stranger became family, about kindness creating miracles, and about how one moment of compassion could change everything. Remember, baby, Maya said, kissing Emma's forehead, when you have much, help someone who has little. And when you have little, remember that you still have something to give, even if it's just kindness. Because that's what changes the world. I'll remember, Mama, Emma promised, her eyes already closing with sleep. And Maya knew she would, just as she had, just as Robert had, just as Sarah had all those years ago. The chain of kindness continued, link by link, life by life, one moment of humanity at a time.